Hello, my name is David Lynn. I'd like to welcome you to your college level courses. We want to take a few minutes, make sure that you have the appropriate study habits and practices to be successful. Now, in order to succeed in higher education, we want you to get the most out of your classes and to get your money's worth because of the large tuition you're paying for. So you should come to class prepared. The rule of thumb is that you study 3 hours for every single college credit hour that you take. Now, full-time students are 12 to 16 hours, and we'll split the difference and say 14 credit hours times 3 hours of preparation means that you will be studying approximately 42 hours a week. Now, there's an old adage that says study smart, not hard. I don't necessarily agree with this. You should study smart and hard. Now, you can build accuracy. Your goal is to build up your accuracy with the information, and the more accurate you are, the faster it will come, and this will equate to fewer hours of study time. Now, the goal of a higher educational institution is to get you to exercise your brain. If you come into class and passively sit there and just try and learn by listening to what the instructor is saying, I'm afraid to say your academic career is not going to go very far or very fast. However, what we are looking for are stimulated brains. We want neural connections firing. We want the brain nerves and neurons to get a good workout. Now, there are two types of learning, and you can only use one at a time, but both are necessary for a solid foundational knowledge base. There is a focused learning, and that element is the book learning, where you learn specific aspects related to your field of study, and also sequential information, which is your step by step, this is how you do things. Now, as far as your mental workout is concerned, think about your books as your heavy weights, and you want to use them to build up big muscle mass. But that's not the only thing you need to be physically fit. You also need to do warm-ups before you go in to do that heavy lift. You want to do calisthenics. You want to burn the fat off. You want to meld things so that they all can make sense and they look like they're supposed to be everything is where they're supposed to be. You want a big picture, understanding all those main concepts. Now, it's difficult for people to come into school and have both of those elements. Uh, I am a big fan of group study. Find a study group and make sure that you have a good mix of both focused and diffuse learners so that you can learn from each other's strengths. However, if you are having trouble with the textbook because you find it boring, well, one of the techniques I would recommend is sitting down and doing what is known as the Pomodoro technique. And what that means is you set a timer for 25 minutes, no TV, no phone calls, no interruptions. You sit down with the book and focus on the book for 25 minutes. Now, if you're like me, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You can sit there and watch an infomercial. 25 minutes focused looking at a book and trying to get the information is a much better way of study. Now, if you cannot understand the material, you've looked at it, you've read it 3 times, it doesn't make any sense, feel free to search online. I'm not a huge fan, but it can help you lead down different paths. I really encourage you to call a focused classmate and have them explain it to you. And for greater clarification, that is why you come to class, to ask the instructor. Now, it is important that you learn how to read the book because if you don't read the book, it's like going to the gym to watch other people work out, and you're surprised that you're not getting the same results just because you're watching other people work. So you need to open up that book. Now, for those who can read the book and they love the materials, their weakness tends to be on application of the information that they have read. Now, in order to, this is my downfall. In order to be able, I can read the book, but in order to put it in context that people can understand, I try and watch for examples on popular mediums such as TV shows or movies. I try and find examples of it on the internet. And it's the purpose is being able to explain things to other people. You cannot use the same terminology as a book. Remember, they can't if they're having trouble understanding the book. Reciting the book to them doesn't help them. So you need to explain it in words that they can understand. Now, my dogs learned a lot from me while I was in school because they were the only ones that were awake when I was studying. So I taught my dogs how to my field. And by reading the information and turning around and teaching my dogs who were happy, they had smiles on their faces while I explained my field to them, that helped balance me out. You need to be both. You need to lift those weights with the books, and you need to stretch out those muscles with the diffuse elements. Now, how does this work? How do memories get made? How do we remember? Well, remember earlier I said that brain nerves were these things called neurons, and neurons build pathways. And the first time you hear or see something, imagine it as if you're standing in the middle of a field, and I say, see that tree over there? Walk over to the tree. You found your way to the tree, no big deal. But what we need, a lot of our classes are, we teach by repetition, and repeated exposure to get to a destination means that the more times you go to that tree, you can get there faster and with less effort. So you walk to that tree 100 times. You've created a footpath, and then you create a paved walkway. And sure enough, after you've been there 100 times, you've created a roadway. Now, you've built a nice smooth path with regular daily repetition. You can recall that information a lot faster. Now, I'm going to stress the element of daily repetition. It's better to study for 10 minutes, have 10-minute study sessions 6 times a day than a 1 hour of cramming information. And the reason why is because we have different types of memory. We have this thing called a working memory. And working memories are your active learning sites in your brain. And your brain can juggle 3, 4, maybe even 5 balls at a time. For sake of argument, let's just say it's 4 balls that they can sit there and they can juggle and they become familiar with it. Now, if you stay up all night and you cram all this information into your brain for a short term, you end up throwing too many balls at the juggler. Now, the problem is you can keep your working memory very busy, but all of that information has to go from your working memory into your long-term memory. Your long-term memory is your warehouse of all your learned materials. And if you've figured out or understand a concept, but you don't remember where you put it, what's the point of learning it? So short bursts, learn for 20, 25 minutes, learn 4 or 5 key concepts and put them away. Tomorrow, you'll get them out. You'll go to them. You'll find them in your long-term memory. You'll get them out. You'll make sure you know how to use them. And you'll put them away again so you know where they are and you'll know how to find them. Now I'm going to be creating more video, and I want you to go to the videos that seem to be your problem areas. Now I do want to give credit. This video was inspired by and stolen from Learning How to Learn, which is a class offered by Coursera. It's a free class. It's about 4 weeks for you to do all the information. Feel free to sign up on it on your own, and as I said, it is free. And I'm going to cite my resources. Good luck, and good luck learning all this information, and we hope that you do well in your academic career.